Everyone experiences conflict. In fact, you may be in conflict right now with your family, your friends, or even within yourself. Allow me to introduce you to an in-depth biblical teaching series. Coach Darrell White, who is an author, speaker, and family life coach, is thrilled to introduce you to people and families in biblical history that experience the same conflicts that you do. His objective is to use various expressions of art, the experiences of mental health professionals, or the sacred scriptures to help you with identifying and resolving various community mental health challenges. Join us now to see how the gallery that tells your story can transform our lives.
What's up, good people? This is Coach White, author, speaker, family relationship coach. Welcome to the gallery that tells your story. This is a new series, so I'm pretty excited. See you guys in a minute. Peace. All right. What's up, good people? Boy, Coach White. Thank you for joining in for another exciting episode. As we continue with the topic of, does God justify lies? Like, is there ever a time where lies are justifiable? So what we're doing is we're looking in the scriptures at some passages that people may deem to be a bit controversial as it pertains to that topic, and we're going to pick it apart. But before we do, a couple of quick announcements. Be sure to check out the gallery that tells your story on YouTube. Definitely love for you guys to check out the content. Give us some feedback. I think you'll find it to be favorable, helpful in your Christian journey. We talk a lot about life and relationships and family and things of that nature. And we use the Word of God as a mirror to determine how well we're doing or what we need to improve upon, because the ultimate goal is that God get the glory. So check that out when you get a chance. Also, we have books for sale. So we have Aiden's Journey, which is comprised of two books, two Christian fiction novels, one being The Invisible Marriage. Yes, you can be married and be invisible in the marriage. And then we have Forsaking All Others, the Aiden and Nicole story. And by title, it just says Forsaking All Others, Aiden and Nicole. But Aiden is the main character. So it is a two-part series. Part 3 will be out pretty soon. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. But those books are available on both Amazon and Kindle. Also, we have I Do, I Did, and It Didn't. I had the privilege of working with 3 other Christian authors. Shout out to my brother Rock. Shout out to Anastasia and Taisha. This was a really good Christian fiction novel about people who said I do, people who did the thing called marriage, and it didn't work. So they got lessons out of it. So check that out. Give us some feedback. It is also available on Amazon and Kindle. And then if you like poetry, my wife, shout out to Nikisha White, my better half. If you like poetry, 50 Shades of She is your book. The Lord enabled her to use her poetry to escape her prior experiences with domestic violence. So check that out. That is not available on Kindle. It is available on Amazon. But yeah, give that a give that a shot. Let us know how you like it. Also, we have Coach Class with Coach every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Uh, we're coaching on the three pillars, one being self-talk, the second one being self-improvement, and the latter being about your relationship with others. Right now, we are on self-improvement, and the subunit is called self-awareness. All right. So if you're interested, check me out on TikTok at Darrell Dr. White. I do replay those episodes on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can check that out on the Gallery That Tells Your Story channel on YouTube, or you can catch it on my Facebook page at Darrell White. All right. Um, and I am recruiting new coaches to join my team. So if you are interested in getting into coaching, that is a free class for you. It is a free class for clients and those that are interested in becoming clients. That is a free class for you that's offered every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the replay on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, like I mentioned before. But we also have Bible studies. That's right. Study to show yourself approved. We are journaling. We are taking a journey through the book of Hebrews. We have been studying Hebrews verse by verse. Pardon me, I'm getting choked up on words tonight. We have been studying that book for a year and a month. So shout out for those that have participated thus far. So yes, every Sunday from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to join that study, you can check me out on TikTok live. Or you can catch me on Facebook at Darrell White, or the Gallery That Tells Your Story channel on YouTube. We also have the replay Sunday evenings at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Times, in the event that you can't make the study on Sundays at 12. So, yeah, check it out. We want to know what the Bible means by what it says. Last but certainly not least, we have merchandise for sale. We have the Gallery That Tells Your Story t-shirts. We have John 8 and 24 t-shirts. And we have self-love over self-destruction t-shirts available. So, if any of those interest you, again, you can get the books on Amazon or Kindle. You can reach out to me via text at 443-762-6010. Again, that's 443-762-6010. All right, let's get into this. So on the subject of is lying ever justified? All right, so if you guys are with us on prior episodes, we did some live interviews with some folks on the spot. I have some more that I'm looking forward to editing and airing. And we got some pretty interesting responses. Now, this is what we call the Relationship Morality Survey. And I asked the question to the people. I said, people, if, or out of 10 people that you know, how many would lie if telling the truth would hurt the person they love? And then I asked, out of 10 people you know, how many would lie if they thought that telling the truth would end the relationship? And then I asked, out of those same 10 people, how many would think that their lies were justified by God? Somebody asked me recently, like, where are you getting at with this? And here's where I'm going with this, man. I just find that people justify their lies. People can find a way to justify their sins in one shape, form, or fashion, right? But it's just not acceptable either way to be dishonest. And when you're dishonest, look, there's only two teams that you can be on. You can be on God's team or you can be on the father of lies team. That's not a team you want to be on. Uh, Never a good thing, right? So then we went to the scriptures and we looked at some incidents. Some of you guys have reached out and said, hey, well, if God doesn't justify lies, then what about this scripture and verse? Or what about this chapter and verse? So now today we're looking at, I hope my board is clear. We're in 2 Kings 6. We're going to take a journey beginning at verse 8. And I'm just going to summarize this. All right? So here we go. 2 Kings 6, beginning at verse 8. Now the king of Syria was making war against Israel. And we see that he consulted with his servants. And the king says, my camp will be in a certain place, right? Verse 9, and the man of God warned the king of Israel. And he says, beware that you do not pass a certain place because the Syrians are coming there, right? So we see the warning by the man of God. When you get to verse 10, the king of Israel sent someone to the place the man of God told him. Verse 11, the heart of the king of Syria was enraged by this. So he's pretty ticked off. And he called his servants and he says, who is for the king of Israel? Right? When we get to verse 12, one of his servants said, none, my lord, but Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak, so on and so forth. So he didn't like this. So verse 13, he said, go and see where he is, that I may send and get him. And then they come back and they say, he is in Dothan, which Dothan is in the northern Samaritan hills. It's 12 miles north of Samaria, right? So he's in Dothan. In verse 14, the king of Syria sent horses, chariots, and a great army there, and they came by night and surrounded the city, right? When we get to verse 15, the servant of the man of God, he rose early, which tells me that, they've been there for a while, camping around the city. As they got there at night, the man of God witnesses them, the servant of the man of God, rather, witnesses them in the morning or early, right? So he went out, and when he went out, he saw that the army was circling the city, right? Verse 15 tells us, when the servant of the man of God arose early and went out, okay, the army was circling the city. I said that already. But when we get to verse 18, when the Syrians came down to him being Elisha, listen to this. Elijah prayed to the Lord, strike this people with blindness, and the Lord struck them with blindness. Verse 19 is your verse. This is what we got to pay attention to. This is what people say, see, look, God justifies lies. Check this out. Now Elisha said to them, this is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. But he led them to Samaria. Right? So it was, verse 20, when they came to Samaria, that Elisha said, Lord, open the eyes of these men, that they may see. And the Lord opened their eyes, and they saw that they were inside Samaria. When the king of Israel saw them, he said to Elisha, shall I kill them? Shall I kill them? Elisha said, you shall not kill them. Set food and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master. Then they prepared a great feast for them, verse 23. And after they ate and drank, he sent them away, and they went to their master. So the bands of Syrian raiders or marauders came no more into the land of Israel. All right. So you see what the challenge could be, right? So let's pick this apart. So according to verse 19, the question that we're dealing with is, did Elisha lie? And if so, was it justified by God? Now, if you're taking this position, you will have to assume that Elisha was aware that they were coming to the city for him. All right? Here's why I say that. According to verse 13, right, their instructions from their king was to get Elisha and bring him back to Syria, right? When we look at verse 18 provides the evidence that the Syrian army was able to identify Elisha, the prophet, because it says the Syrians came down to him, right? But listen, this is also what we have to wrestle with. If we are assuming that Elijah was aware that they were coming to the city for him. The question that we have to wrestle with is, what did Elisha actually know according to the scriptures? Well, he knew that the king of Syria was making war against Israel, because we see in verse 9, verse 9 tells us that he warned the king of Israel, right? Now, according to verse 12, Elisha tells the king of Israel the words that the king of Syria speaks. Now, the New King James says from his bedroom, but that word for from his bedroom is translated from the Hebrew as from his inner chamber. All right? In other words, Elisha, this is what we can draw from this safely, right? Elisha is privy to what the king of Syria says about the king of Israel regarding where he planned to set up his camp. How do we know that? Verse 8, the king of Syria consulted, the lexicon says, counsel with his servants. And what does he say? My camp will be in a certain place. So let's connect the dots. So when he's consulting or counseling with his servants, we have to assume, based off of the evidence, that he's in his inner chamber. And Elisha hears what he says in his inner chamber because God allowed him to know what he says about where the soldiers would camp. All right? Look at verse 19. I got excited just now. Elisha says, this is not the way, nor is this the city. I will bring you to the man you seek. Here's where people get caught up. In other words, this is not the way, this is not the city, and I am not the guy. Right? The way is the road to Samaria. The city is Samaria, and the man whom you seek is the king of Israel. Here's why I draw that conclusion. The end of verse 19 says he led them to Samaria, right? Verse 20 says they were inside Samaria. Verse 21 says the king of Israel saw them. But here's where people get caught up with verse 19. One word in the New King James Version. The word but. The word but here in verse 19, but in and of itself implies something on the contrary or something different, right? So let me read verse 19 again, all right? It says, now Elijah said to them, this is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. But he led them to Samaria. Did you hear that? So it implies, with the word but, something on the contrary or something different. But the lexicon translates it as the word and not but. And is used to connect something that's similar, related, or a continuation of an idea. So I'm going to reread that verse with the word and as it appears in the lexicon. So it was when they came. Oh, I'm sorry. Now Elijah said to them, "This is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek." And he led them to Samaria. You hear the difference? So for those of you that don't use the lexicon, it is a very, very helpful Bible study tool. It will give you the direct translation from the original language. So what I sense from this is that there may be a slight textual variance there. But I think I'm going to go with the word and over the word but. Because it flows a lot smoother, and it makes more sense logically. So here's my conclusion. Elijah did not lie because we don't have evidence to support it. We don't have evidence that he was aware that they were coming to the city for him. And although we know that he was privy to what the king of Syria says about where he would camp his army, we don't have the evidence that Elijah knew that the king was sending the army to him in Dothan. So that's my conclusion. To those of you all that thought that this would somehow be a legitimate passage to use to say, hey, I told you God justifies lies, I think you got to try again. Nah, this wasn't it. This wasn't it. But this was fun, man. I appreciate you guys. And see you guys on the next episode. We're going to close out right here. And hope you have a great holiday coming up. And pray for your safety. And pray that you stay connected to the vine so that you can bear fruit and glorify God in heaven. All right? See you next time. Peace. Wow, what another exciting episode. I hope that you guys are able to take some key points away. We continue to navigate through this series. Hope you guys check in with me. Again, this is Coach White. See you next time. Peace.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Gallery That Tells Your Story with Coach Darrell White. I hope today's episode encouraged much introspection and self-reflection. Be sure to join us again next week at the same time and the same channel. If you missed any of the prior episodes, please be sure to check the show archives. And if you're a mental health organization interested in learning more about partnership opportunities with Coach White, or if you're an artist interested in being featured on any upcoming episode's events, please contact Coach White directly at 443-785-7010. Again, that's 443-785-7010. And peace.